So after studying the demographic condition and the occupational structure of India during the British rule, now let us see the status of infrastructure in India. So what is infrastructure? Infrastructure is nothing but it comprises of road, communication, transport, etc., which makes the country more accessible. So during the British rule, India had basic infrastructure. What do we mean by basic infrastructure? India had basic railways, India had ports, India had water transport, post offices, telegraph, and etc. So these were the basic infrastructure which India had. Now, before Britishers coming into India, India had a good foreign trade. India was a master in handicraft industry and India used to export those handicrafts throughout the world. So obviously India had a good amount of ports in India and the water transport in India was also well developed. And water transport is the only reason why Britishers came into India. So under colonial rule, India had a good amount of basic required infrastructure, which is railway, ports, water transport, post offices, and also telegraphs were introduced. However, the Britishers were developing the infrastructure. But since if Britishers are developing those infrastructure, the motive of Britishers was their own self-interest. However, in real, the motive behind development was not to provide basic amenities to the people, but to subserve various colonial interests. So the Britishers were providing or Britishers were developing good infrastructure in India. For an example, the Britishers increased the quality of roads, or let's say Britishers built good quality of roads. But the only reason of building good infrastructure was to encourage their own colonial interest. They were providing good roads, they were building or they were manufacturing industries just to increase their trade. It was all because the Britishers could transport their army, the Britishers could transport the goods throughout the India and to the world. Now, roads constructed in India before the Britishers came were very poor, and the Britishers' road was not good for modern economy. So before Britishers came into India, India was an independent economy, and hence India did not have that much infrastructure. So whatever the roads that were constructed before Britishers coming into India were all traditional roads and they were not fit for modern transport. Hence Britishers are the one who introduced India with good amount of modern transport. The colonial administration could not accomplish much due to the paucity of funds. Now, even the Britishers made an attempt to build good roads in India. They tried to develop good roads in India, but the Britishers were unable to do so because of less funds available with them. And the Britishers were having less funds with them because the Britishers were fighting wars and the Britishers were trying to maintain their colonial rule in India. Now, roads that were primarily built, the roads that were built were used for two purposes. First, to mobilize army within India. So it was used so that the army could mobilize or move from one place to another within India. And the second purpose why they started developing was drawing out raw materials from the countryside to the nearest railway station or port to send that away to England or other lubricative foreign destinations. So the first why they started using was so that the army could mobilize and the other products related to army could easily mobilize. And the second thing why they started developing roads is because they thought that we will be drawing out India's raw material. So it was done to send raw materials from India to the nearest port or railway station through which they can transport that to their home country, which is Britain, or to another country whom they have taken order. So this was the main purpose of road that served the British purpose during the British rule. They always remained an acute shortage of all weather roads to reach out the rural areas during rainy seasons. So when it was monsoon, when it was heavy monsoon, the conditions of road would decline, or let's say the road would get destroyed, and hence the communication through many rural areas would cut off. So in order to build good roads, hence the Britishers did not had good amount of funds.